Good afternoon, Wrestling Inc. Get up, get going. Welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily. It's me, your managing editor of WrestlingInc.com, Nick Hausman, joined here as I am every Monday to get the week going right, talk all that pro wrestling news from over the weekend. It's our very good friend, Michael Wiseman. Michael, welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
Thank you, Nick. We are getting the week started off greatly this week. Listen, I had the best scoop of strawberry ice cream that I have ever had today. I had to drive across the Carolinas for an unexpected errand and stopped little roadside stand, the world's biggest strawberry, got some strawberry ice cream. It's going to be a good day. I'm going to Texas during a heat wave later this week. I'm probably going to burn my britches off, but you know what? I'm going to eat some meat. So life is good, baby. Life is good.
Yeah, I mean, what's a pro wrestling show without scoops of ice cream, right?
Stupid.
It's good. It's a good line. And burn my britches. That was about as rednecky as I've ever heard you sound in my entire life. Oh my God, I forget your.
It comes through. I'm from the South. It comes through once. I was born in a rural mountain town in North Carolina, so it still exists.
You get a couple drinks into me, or particularly a thing of whiskey, and my draw comes out hard. So I'm right there.
That's right. You're from Texas, aren't you?
I am. I'm a native Houstonian.
I haven't even talked to you about my trip. We should anyway. Oh, that's awesome. I forgot that.
What, do you need recommendations? I don't know what's going on. I haven't lived in Texas.
I'm there for 3 days. I will show you my itinerary. It is stupid. I'm going to Austin, Fort Worth, Austin, San Antonio in 3 days. So.
Oh, wow. It's a pretty good loop. That's a good loop. It's going to be very, very hot. It is very, very hot. But anyway, hey, we got a wrestling show to get to here. Not a Texas.
Speaking of hot, right? Pro wrestling show.
I guess Texas is a pretty good wrestling market, so I guess it's worthy of talking about. And by the way, our chat room is open. DX Vex here saying, damn it, Nick, stop doing the baby face look. It's weird to me. Yes, I've shaved. I don't have a beard anymore. I'm clean. I'm the good guy. I'm the baby face. But yes, headlocked heel in the house here. Leo, Antonio, Samantha, everybody here today. Jump on in. Nelly Belly 420. Nick, I forgot to tell you, welcome back from France. I was never in France. I went to Spain, a little bit of time in Germany, cup of coffee in Portugal, but mostly Spain. But thank you for thinking that I was in France. Beautiful place.
From parts unknown, we'll say. You were in parts unknown.
Would love to go someday. Hey, before we get to all this fun wrestling news in the mailbag that we've got to today, I want to start off by sending out our best to a couple of friends of the show. A couple people I've really just enjoyed meeting in the world of professional wrestling. First of all, Virgil. We already knew Virgil was battling dementia. We also now know that he is battling stage 2 colon cancer. Jim Duggan, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, also battling cancer again. His has come back. I love both of these men quite a bit. I have wonderful memories of Hacksaw Jim Duggan from the Indies. Very, very nice man. I have great memories of Virgil, too. He's a wild card. I love hanging out with Virgil. I'm really sad to hear both these guys are struggling right now, you know?
Yeah, this sucks. We've talked about before when your heroes start kind of getting up there in age and having health issues and cancer, the C word here, I think that makes it so much worse. It feels like we are on the verge of so many breakthroughs as a society with cancer treatments, but we still have a long way to go with that. And it just sucks that we are losing heroes and icons and things we were fans of during our childhoods and so on. But more importantly, for their friends and family who are close to them, just thoughts and prayers to Virgil and Hacksaw and everybody around them.
Absolutely. Well, as for the show here today, we are going to talk the news here in just a moment. At the end of the show for everybody, we'll dive into the mailbag. We're going to look at this Friday's SmackDown. Allegedly, we're going to get a tag team title unification match. Or I should say, we're going to get the match. Allegedly, we're going to get unified tag team champions. That's what the allegedly is. So when we get to the mailbag, we're going to talk about this match. We're going to talk about who you think will walk away as unified champions if that goes down the way they are advertising it. But hey, let's get to it here. News you can use, news that will leave a bruise. We're going to start here talking about MJF. Jim Pethlowski here saying MJF, he's just hyping himself. Well, according to Fightful, AEW, MJF have not had formal talks on a potential new deal for the Long Island native. Per Fightful, MJF and AEW haven't had any, quote, outright negotiations, end quote, and the outspoken star has reportedly not addressed any overtures from the company when trying to begin negotiations. It's worth noting that AEW president Tony Khan, quote, would be willing to pay, unquote, him comparable to other top stars. AEW has reworked other deals in the past. However, those involved adding time on the contract. It was noted that MJF isn't looking to increase the figure on his current deal without an extension. What do you make here as the world turns around MJF?
I think we've had the I'm going to go back to Jim Pethalski in the chat room here. MJF just hyping himself. I'm not going to say never, right? Because we talked about Cody Rhodes, and I was like, Cody Rhodes would never go back to WWE, and now he's the biggest baby face in the company right now. But what I will say here is, I think MJF is negotiating and he's playing the game, and we know that Vince McMahon would like to get his hands on somebody, a big star, a big talker. MJF is the kind of superstar that Vince McMahon, I think, could gravitate towards much more than I know he's made passes or offers for, the Bucks and Kenny Omega in the past. But MJF is young, he's hungry, he's a great talker, and he just has an era of something about him, that special sauce that not everybody has. So I think MJF will end up with AEW, but I think this is a great negotiation tactic for him, and Tony Khan would be a fool to overlook or undersell MJF in the situation.
Well, DX Vex, you're saying if WWE gets MJF, they're going to water him down so bad. It will definitely be a different presentation. And I do I know MJF he's going to be able to work wherever, right? He's a great character. He knows how to. But isn't part of the fun of MJF is the fact that he's just like so vicious, so over the top, so in your face? Are they going to let him have that kind of bite in a WWE? I mean, to be fair, the reason Cody's working so well right now is he tried to go play in that box where it was like over the top and aggressive and braggadocious. And I just don't think it clicked there. They brought him into WWE. I don't want to say they watered him down, but they definitely polished him up and presented him in a much more family-friendly kind of way. And I don't know that you could do that with MJF like you did with Cody.
I think it would be tough, but I don't think it's impossible. They do some weird things whenever they cut promos sometimes where they say, "Oh, you're a bitch," and they throw out some cuss words sometimes in ways that don't feel kind of authentic to anybody. And honestly, they're a little bit offensive, I think.
Sure.
But I think they push the boundaries a little bit. And if anybody could push their boundaries, it would be MJF. I'm not saying MJF is going to get the full freedom that he has in AEW, but I can see them making some concessions they've done it with Brock Lesnar, right? They've had guys bleed. I remember the Brock Lesnar Randy Orton match where he got busted open. So they will make some concessions. And there's also no guarantee we will be in this particular era of pro wrestling forever. Maybe they want to go a little bit edgier, as they've tended to tempt to a little bit, maybe, in NXT. They've tried that a little bit too. So I don't think it's an impossible thing. And money talks, right? So creative freedom is everything. That's a big thing, but money is also everything at the same time. So I don't know. I could see it. I think they could find a way to make it work.
I'll take a couple comments here from Scott Allen swearing over on Facebook. He's saying, why in the world every week really talking about MJF's contract? Really, it's not over for another year and a half, right? And that's, I think it's interesting because, yes, you're right. This is probably a conversation that will be far more interesting a year from now, maybe not, a year and a half from now. But I think that what's so interesting about this is for fans that did not live through the Monday Night War, they've never seen this really, right? And even for me growing up in that, I was 12, 8, whatever, stupid young. I wasn't following contract stuff. So I think it's just something new for wrestling fans to kind of look at, speculate, grind their teeth into, and will this continue to have the same kind of attention on it in years to come? I don't know, maybe, probably. People always love to talk about contract stuff.
It colors the lens of everything that we look at for the next year and a half with MJF, though. That's why it's so important right now, right? Because he's in the middle, and he's been in the middle of a big push in some major matches. If all of a sudden you see those major matches not showing up quite as much, does that mean, maybe MJF isn't going to re-sign, right? Or are they shy to pull the trigger on him with a world title run because they can't guarantee? You don't want to promote a guy you're getting ready to send to the other company, right? Cody Rhodes did the job to, on the way out to Sammy Guevara. So it does color what happens in the next year is worth talking about.
Yeah, for sure. And, I don't want to, even now, what he's doing with Wardlow, I'm already kind of I don't know, is this starting to affect the way Tony Khan books him? I mean, look, it's very redundant what he's doing with Wardlow. We've seen this exact storyline with him and Cody already. We even kind of saw shades of it in his feud with Jericho, it's a kind of a amalgamation of the stuff we've already seen MJF do. It doesn't really feel new or different. It's kind of like what we've seen of MJF before. Is Tony Khan doing that on purpose? Is he not? I don't know, but it's certainly something I've watched recently and been like, I feel like I've seen this. And in the end, Wardlow's just going to kick this guy's ass. And where does that leave MJF? And is that because of the contract stuff? I don't know. You know?
So I have a question for you, Nick. I've been thinking about MJF and his fit onto WWE's roster. And I think a good comparison here is somebody like a CM Punk, right? Because CM Punk would definitely push the boundaries and do the pipe bombs or whatever else, even though they were in the PG era. What about MJF doesn't work in WWE? We say that. We say he's too much of an edgy character. Is it because every once in a while he throws out shit as a word? Is it because he insults the fans? Because you can get up there, his passion, his aggression, that stuff can still show up in WWE. But I'm just trying to figure out, why is it that people think that his character won't work in a more scripted environment?
Yeah, I think it's that. I think it's like, if you try to, he's so good, improvising and coming up with his own content. Like, I think there's a part of that. Nobody ever talks about it, but he's like not that tall either. He's only like 5'8", right? You look at what's going on with like, what's his face? Former Eli Drake, LA Knight.
Yeah.
You see what's going on with LA Knight right now. He got to the main roster. They're making him a manager, dude. Like, that guy is not physically built that much different than MJF. And so, like, I know that to really put a thumb in Tony Khan's eye and to send a message, they're not going to make the guy a manager. But is he really kind of fully in the mold of a WWE guy? I don't know. Cody's tall, dude. Cody's like 6'2", right? Thick, very athletic, much more Vince's kind of guy.
I don't know what it says. I totally buy all those points. And I don't know what it says about MJF or either company, where I could very easily see MJF as a AEW world champion. And I think you're right. I do struggle from just a strictly personal, objective, non-objective, my personal standpoint, viewpoint, perspective. I struggle to see him carrying the Universal title in WWE.
And James Jones here saying, Nick, ever since he mentioned Bruce's name, he seems to be getting pushed down. He beats Punk, but then Punk gets the title shot. He beat Punk twice in one night by cheating, but ultimately the big win, the dog collar match win, that went to CM Punk. That set up the title shot that he's getting with Hangman Page. So I don't quite see the logic there, but point taken. I guess he's not right. I don't know where he was.
And it feels like he's going to end up on the losing end of this next feud too. So we'll see.
Yes. Also in AEW world, Hikaru Shida, she previously defeated Julia Hart to qualify for the women's tournament, the Owen Hart Memorial Cup tournament. She was scheduled to face Red Velvet in an opening round match on Friday's AEW Rampage. But now she's been pulled from the match. Rampage featured a segment with Tony Schiavone interviewing Jade Cargill and the Baddies, and it was announced that Shida was injured during her Philly Street Fight loss to Serena Deeb on the April 27th Dynamite episode, which was Shida's last match for AEW. Shida, who noted on social media that she's been active in Japan this past week, tweeted after Rampage and responded to video of the segment with Schiavone, Cargill, Baddies, and Statlander, who is going to be taking her place at the tournament, writing, "What?" She then made a follow-up tweet. She said, "Well, I already had 4 matches after the street fight and just finished the greatest fighting musical show." Love those words together. "But I seem to have been injured. Japanese wrestling is nothing for them. I'm so sorry, and sorry I couldn't be in the tournament too." She did say, "I'm glad from my heart that Chris Statlander is in the tournament now, and I'm going to try to enjoy this sudden holidays in Japan because it has been a while before I had. Be positive." And lastly here, Fightful noting that people internally in AEW close to this situation, they were all under the impression that Shida knew about this angle happening before it was revealed. Very weird. Very odd.
Well, and then she added in that extra weird tweet where she tried to downplay it again, right? There was that other one a couple hours ago where she was basically like, after my Philadelphia street fight, a doctor check from AEW was required to participate in the Owen Hart Tournament Cup, and I couldn't re-enter the country in time. I'm sorry to disappoint everyone. These difficulties sometimes happen with international talents. So then she went back after all of that and then said, actually, I checked with the doctor, and the doctor told me that I couldn't do it. So it's strange, but it feels like this is a contract thing, right? That AEW and their contract didn't kind of come to snuff, and that was it for her role in that, huh?
Maybe, she's not the first woman to talk about, or first Japanese woman to talk about how AEW doesn't is no longer really rallying around the Japanese women like they were early in the
Sure.
company. I think it was actually I think she might have actually made these comments. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Sheeta has spoken before, kind of along these lines here. And yeah, dude, definitely read like cleanup control to me. Like, somebody got in her ear and was like, "Hey, don't do that. You're gonna get yourself in some trouble here."
It's just a weird thing to happen whenever she was, I think she still is your longest reigning AEW women's champion, and she kind of set the pace for that division early on. It feels like you would want to keep her around for the continuity sake of we've had depth and people have been here a while, like that matters. And I think it's also weird whenever you're hyping, it's not one-to-one, but you're hyping this big cross-promotional Forbidden Door show, and Sheeta has gone and been working over in Japan too. There's a lot of reason I would want to keep Sheeta there, and yet they want to let her go. And that's my assumption. I don't know for a fact they wanted to let her go, but you would make this work, and that place in the tournament seems like a great fit for her. So I don't want to read into this, Nick, but also how active is Kenny Omega in the women's division right now? We know early on he was super active. So, former New Japan guy. I just wonder about that.
Yeah, just really weird, right? What's in the water over in Japan right now? Her, Ibushi, everybody just shooting on the Americans, right? It's like, you gaijin, time to throw down and get the truth out there, I guess. Anyway.
I yeah, but I mean, I can also see it too, right? Like you had this, if you are a Japanese wrestler and there was a partnership made with Ring of Honor back in the day and that thing fell apart, right? And now you're kind of trusting in AEW and Tony Khan to do the right thing as well. And they've got a little bit of a depth issue there from they have too much talent and talent tends to get ignored. So it maybe there's something there. It doesn't feel like they're always on the same page.
Well, somebody we're not going to be seeing on WWE TV anytime soon, unfortunately, is Shelton Benjamin, who took to Twitter and announced that he has sustained an undisclosed injury that's going to keep him on the shelf for a while. Only the second injury he's ever had in his career that's going to keep him away from the ring. Of course, Shelton has not been, being used on WWE TV regularly as of late. I don't know what I read this and I just kind of thought to myself, how long is it until Shelton's coaching down at the Performance Center? I mean, this guy's been around forever, man,
Yep. That's what it feels like his eventual. I mean, let's give him credit, right? 46-year-old, still out there doing the damn thing, looking great at it. Looks like he's in great shape. Your point, he's only been injured a couple of times. And these are all the things WWE loves. You got the great look, you're athletic, you don't get injured easily. They love that consistency from people. These kind of bench players like Shelton Benjamin who can do whatever they ask him to. But he is prime and ready and a perfect person to go down there and coach and get the NIL initiative off the ground and get those talents running. So I think they're going to just quietly write him off TV, maybe using this as a chance to do it. He doesn't serve a purpose anymore for Bobby Lashley's group. Let's get him down there doing some coaching. But I think he's a guy that WWE definitely needs to keep around from a producer or a coaching standpoint because he's so smart and he's so athletic. He just has a lot more to give to that company.
Yeah, definitely sending our best to Shelton. And I love this.
And I don't want to call it this. Samantha said that's not old 46. I'm not saying 46 is old. Please don't hear that. I'm saying for a pro wrestler, once you get into your mid 40s, you see them just like in pro football, whatever else, they tend to, on average, start slowing down a little bit, taking fewer risks, yada, yada, yada. That's all I meant by that statement. Not universal, of course.
Yes. Yeah. Come on now. I'm less than a decade behind that. That's not old. All right, lastly here, directly from WWE World, Fightful has this great note here about an internal letter that was put out at WWE that has approved the following superstars for haircuts. Here's the people that can get haircuts, Michael. From Raw, AJ Styles, Bobby Lashley, Cody Rhodes, Damian Priest, Dolph Ziggler, Edge, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, The Miz, Randy Orton, Riddle, and Seth Rollins. Over on SmackDown, Drew McIntyre, Happy Corbin, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, Kofi Kingston, Madcap Moss, Paul Heyman, Ricochet, Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn, Sheamus, and Xavier Woods. They can also get haircuts. Now, this is a very silly thing, and the only thing that's probably of note to discuss here is this has all the ramifications of action figures and T-shirts and anything with your image and your likeness. Is going to be affected by something cosmetic like getting a haircut. So I could see why that would have to go through the proper channels, but just it reads very silly, right? Like all these adult people having to get permissions to get haircut from their boss. It just reads very silly.
It does a little bit. I don't know. At first, it reads Philly to me because who's not on this list? But then I look at this because I'm like, oh wait, AJ Styles can get a haircut. His hair is part of his iconography, right? But I also understand too. They have to. To your point, there are things in the pipeline that we will not see for 3, 4, 5 more months that have been worked on. And if people dramatically change their look between now and October, it's going to ruin the money that they could make and the WWE can make. So it just, you sign away your likeness and appearance whenever you go to work for WWE. Good luck.
Well, MCAS Pierre in the chat room saying, why, Nick, have you not brought up Ric Flair and his last match? What do you think? Well, why don't I bring it up right now? Why don't I do that, MCAS?
Thank you for that. Thank you for that nice
you.
little transition.
Right in the same headspace right now. WWE Hall of Famer Ric Flair has confirmed he's going to be making his in-ring return for one final match July 31st for Jim Crockett Promotions. PW Insider saying it is anticipated this is going to be a multi-man match. And it should also be noted that former WCW commentator Chris Cruz is campaigning to have Ric Flair not return to the ring. He's saying, write your athletic commission. This man is too old. He has a pacemaker. He might die in the ring. Please stop Ric Flair from wrestling in the ring. How do you feel about Rick coming back for one more match, it looks like?
Well, then there was a rumor out that might feature FTR, which could be cool when you look at, anyway, it's Jim Crockett Promotions, which has all that stuff. There's some cool aspects around this match that I can understand why Ric Flair would want to do it. Chris Cruz out there promoting against Ric Flair to do this just feels like kind of yelling at the wall at this point. The man's going to do what he's going to do. And if he wants to die in the ring, like, who am I to stop this man from doing it, right? Like, he's done.
Very traumatizing for the people in the audience when you watch a man die like that, Michael.
That is fair. That's a great point. I guess my thing here is this is not, whatever you say, right? His last match, one final hurrah. He did this 10 years ago with Sting in TNA, and they had their final match together. And then before that, it was 2008 when he went against Shawn Michaels and he had his retirement match. So I think all of these stop and goes, just again, pro wrestling, never say never. He retired back in 2008 with Shawn Michaels. Let's just leave it at that. This is good for Rick if he wants to do it. Good for him, whatever. But fair point. I don't want the man to die in the ring because I don't want traumatized fans.
Yeah, I'm going to traumatize those kids. You do that. Nelly Belly 420, Ric Flair wants to take a Canadian destroyer from Ricky Morton. That's a real thing that could happen this summer, people. Issa here saying, nobody asked for this.
That's fair.
So, LOL. Yeah, nobody's, I don't know how many people are banging down the door for this. All of this continues to just feel like Ric Flair trying to get in the spotlight again to normalize his existence in professional wrestling following the fallout from Dark Side of the Ring, where he was removed from WWE TV and was seemingly passed over by AEW to come onto their television as well. So we'll see if it works, right?
Well, I guess that's my point. Like, it just feels like white noise at this. Like, I don't care about it. Like, the man's going to do what he's going to do, but it doesn't impact me because, to your point, I think Ric Flair has become a smirch in pro wrestling at this point. So, going to go wrestle, to me, he's going to take a bump, right? We've had old guys take bumps before, but just ignore this guy at this point. Come on, y'all.
Yeah, so we'll see, right? Rick's out there banging the drum, trying to get some attention. Will it work? We'll find out. Lastly here, though, as we're talking about independent wrestling, this past weekend at an IWE pro wrestling show, an indie promotion that runs events in Augusta, Georgia, a fight broke out between a fan and one of the competing wrestlers. Multiple videos of the incident have now made their way to social media and show the incident breaking out between the fan and heel wrestling character Joe Black. Black can be seen making his way to ringside after the match, playing up his heel persona, and this inspires the fan to rise to his feet, viciously headbutt Joe Black, and then a big brawl broke out. Bunch of people try to pull him apart. I've seen this video from like several angles at this point. It pretty much flooded my Twitter timeline yesterday. I will note that like it did seem like Joe Black kind of flicked this guy's hand away, right? Yeah. Like made some kind of physical contact with the fan before the fan headbutted him. So I know a lot of people are like jumping on this guy, like don't hit the wrestlers. And I'm not saying that what Joe Black did was worthy of getting straight up headbutted, but like as a reminder to the wrestlers too, maybe don't give people an excuse to act like a violent idiot. And I don't want to say that again, it was like both things being the same, But it would seem like Joe Black did try to make contact and antagonize this gentleman. And, there's better ways to get heat.
This was just a stunt granny, right? Like they told me this 20 years ago in Pro Wrestling Secrets Greatest Revealed. They put the stunt granny in the audience so that when something like this, remember, so that's all this is, right? Just a stunt granny. No, I think there's two sides to it. The side you're bringing up, Nick, which is wrestlers and their personas. They're playing a part, they're getting heat, but in the moment, it could be very emotional. And sometimes they might take it a half a beat too far, right? So I'm not going to justify, especially if there was physical contact made. I never saw the angle where, Mark Smith in the chat room saying he knocked the fan's hat off, I think. I read that in a few places. I never saw that angle. But if that's where it started, that's not okay, right? Not defending that. But there are two people involved in this situation, right? Flicking a hat off, not okay. A fan choosing to respond by headbutting this man, which is a much more violent act, is definitely not okay. So, two sides to this. Listen, I've seen this happen in independent shows here. I've seen it happen in WWE. A fan tries to do something to a pro wrestler. You're going to get the entire locker room out there after you, and they're going to kick the crap out of you as they try to break up the fight, right? It's not a great place for a fan to be. But I think there's a slightly bigger picture here that we need to look at, which is what happened back at the Oscars this year, what happened not too recently or not too long ago with the comedy club. And there was another incident of a fan attacking somebody doing their shtick up on stage.
Chappelle. Yeah, Chappelle got attacked. Yeah.
Yes. And so I thought there was maybe another local one, or not a local one, but a smaller one. But it seems like we're crossing a threshold where fans are almost taking it upon themselves to attack performers. And again, it seems like, there are some people talking that Joe Black may have done something, but let's be clear, this other man attacked him. It wasn't just a mild flick or aggression. It was an actual, I'm going to headbutt you and physically try to harm you. And I'm just concerned because pro wrestling does blur that line so much between audience and fans and real life and work and all those things, that if we're going down a pipeline of it's okay to attack entertainers and especially live entertainers, I just think it's setting a very dangerous precedent, and I am very worried about where we are going with pro wrestling.
This episode of the Wrestling Inc. Daily is brought to you by Raycon. Moms out there, they're one of the few people that actually call you on the phone and they leave you voicemails anymore. They're like, hey, how's your pro wrestling journalism career going? And I'm like, every day is weird. I cover pro wrestling journalism. So, why not this Mother's Day? Why don't you spoil your mom with the gift of quality premium wireless audio, courtesy of our good friends over at Raycon. So Raycon are these wireless earbuds that I've got in my ear right now. They are must-have for super moms, all of those masters of multitasking who need to keep their hands free. With Raycons, they can stay entertained listening to their favorite podcast, music. They can take phone calls. I was just doing that in the other room. You got this vivid voice technology, all of it hands-free. Look, wearing them, not touching anything. They're user-friendly for moms that aren't used to wireless technology. Easy to set up. I just opened up the case, which was super easy to do. And then, boom, on my phone, I went over to the Bluetooth area. It said everyday earbuds. I connected, and I'm listening to the music, and I'm talking on the phone. And this right here is great. They got all these different color options you can pick from. I chose black, like the black color, but you can find mom a color that suits her and her personality and her style. You're going to get these optimized gel tips. They're going to make sure that your earbuds fit perfectly in ear. You get to choose from one of 5 sizes. And trust me when I say this, they're not going to budge. Okay, they're not going to budge. Watch me. No budging. I'm swinging my head around. They're staying perfectly in my ear. So for the mom on the go, Raycons offer 8 hours of playtime, a 32-hour battery life with their compact portable charging case just right here. They're priced just for you. You get the great quality audio. You get half the price of other premium audio brands. And Raycon's everyday earbuds right here, they have over 49,000 5-star reviews. So tell your mom how much you love her. Make sure she hears it in crystal clear audio by going to buyraycon.com/wrestling inc to get 15% off your Mother's Day order. Again, that's buyraycon.com/wrestling inc. And we want to thank Raycon for sponsoring the Wrestling Inc. Daily. And we're back.
We're back.
Oh, man. It's time for the end of the show, everybody. We got a couple minutes. Let's dive into the mailbag. Today's mailbag question comes to you from @WinkDaily, as all of our questions do. Follow us at WINC Daily over on Twitter. You want to vote in that daily poll. Today's poll question comes from the fact that WWE has announced that Raw Tag Team Champions RK Bro versus SmackDown Tag Team Champions The Usos is going to take place this Friday night in a winner takes all unification match. So who's it going to be? Who walks out of SmackDown as the unified tag team champions? We have about 200 votes here. 29.7% believe the Usos are going to walk out. 26.5% they believe RK Bro. And 43.9% say neither team will walk out as unified tag team champions. We will get a bait and switch. We will not have unified tag team champions crowned this Friday night on SmackDown. Do you agree with that, Michael?
That's where my head's at. WWE does not like to give this payday away on TV, and they've got to be building something towards Hell in a Cell, and especially if the rumor holds that Roman Reigns won't be defending either one of his titles there, I think we might end up in a situation where we get a no call. But I think there was somebody in the room who called this who's going to interfere. And I guess my question would be, what's the next, if that's the case, what's the next pivot or the next wrinkle in this story? Do we get somebody else coming up? Is it just a brawl to end the show? Does Roman Reigns just go out there and spear him? I don't know. We'll see. But I think it's going to be a DQ.
Yeah, this still smells to me like something that should happen inside Hell in a Cell, right? Sure. Like this tag team match with as much as going on, somebody interferes, and that's what happens. So of course you need to put them in a cell, right? Because there's all these outside things going on. Like it makes sense to put them inside of a cell, right? Part of me though, I know we've read reports that say they're not going to do the unification title. Like this is all a charade. If you were going to pick one of these two teams to make the unified tag team champions, I'd go the Usos just because it was so obvious for the first time to me watching Roman be in the ring with Randy and Riddle that both of these guys are ready to get out of the tag team division, sure. Right? It is time to pull the switch. I don't know how much more money has to be made. Riddle got to say his Riddle 420 says, "I just smoked your ass" line. Great line. That's the peak RK Bro for me, right? So, I don't know how much more there is to go with these two. I think a Hell in a Cell loss, teeing up an RK Bro the next night, blow off, and then a SummerSlam main event or SummerSlam match between these two makes a heck of a lot of sense to me, you know?
It gives you a great anchor for that show and what's going to be a loaded show anyway, especially with another major event happening a month later. You kind of need some great storylines. But my question, I agree with all that. And the bloodline being kings of everything in WWE, of course you want them to have the titles, but who's next for the Usos if they win these titles? That's the problem that I have. The tag team division in WWE just feels so lackluster, and there are some great teams and great talent, but they've not built any of them up to be credible championship contenders. So we'll see.
All right, everybody. Well, that's going to wrap us up here today. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you for the wonderful conversation, Michael. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to be joined by Issa. Also, support the Wrestling Inc. Daily. We're on all the podcast pages. Leave us a nice comment. 5-star rating. That stuff helps. Support WrestlingInc.com. We're on all the socials. And, of course, come back here tonight after Raw for the Wrestling Inc. podcast. A lot like this show, but it's at night. Michael, anything you want to plug, put over here to wrap up the show?
It's a little more scandalous after the hours. No, just Nick, thank you for the great conversation today, and everybody who joins us in the chat every week. Love the hell out of y'all. Love seeing your comments. If you want to keep the conversation going, it's not all pro wrestling all the time, but you can follow me on Twitter. I am at The Real Wiseman.
Awesome. I'm at Nick_Houseman over on Twitter. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss it.